polygons, because that's what all the geometry is made of, and NURBS curves, nothing else. So it means you won't get any bones or strange things showing up. So I've got this. Now I'm going to click on the main control, and then I'm going to go to visualize and hit this thing here, create editable motion trail. Now initially I'm not going to see anything because remember I've turned everything off in this, but if I go into my show button I can turn on motion trails, and then I've got the motion trail here. Now you can see there's a bit of a bend in this, probably because these two lines are not identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the ball down slightly. I'm going to go in a bit, and you'll see this will affect the motion trail. So where it's coming off the ground, I'm going to move it down there. Right, and then it's going up here, so that needs to be moved down slightly. And then that's too low now, so that needs to be moved up. And that also needs to move up slightly. So I mean, by doing that, I've kind of what I've done is that's okay. That's still a little bit high. There we go. All right, so that seems better. Okay. So I've got, so if I look at it on the, maybe it's easier to see on this view, I'll just turn the NURBS curves off, and I'll turn off the motion trails. So yeah, you get a, whoop, best if I do it the right way around. Sorry, from here to here. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, you've got this speeding up. It kind of looks relatively okay to me. Okay, so we'll use that. Yeah. So that's the first bit. Right. So we've got the ball. It's just about to fall off the ramp. I'm also going to turn off the grid here as well. Now we've got the drops and the bounces and all these other bits and pieces to do. Okay, so what I would do now is I'm going to just go into this Z translation, and I'm going to do something a little bit interesting. I'm going to go to the just on the Z. So I'm not looking at the Y, the downward at all, just the Z. Now, depending on how you model this, if you've modeled it so that the ramp is facing, this way, then obviously your outward axis might be the X as opposed to the Z. But if you modeled it in exactly the same way as me, then the Z is what you're going to be dealing with. Yeah. So getting back to it, going to the Z axis here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go where it says curves, and then it's, you see there are these buttons, post and pre-infinity. Actually, before I do that, go to view, and where it says infinity, click on infinity, which sounds rather strange, but it's actually very handy. What it does is it shows you what that curve would do afterwards. Now in my case, obviously the ball stops, which means that it's just a straight line. A straight line means it means constant, i.e. the thing has stopped. There is no change in the Z-axis. And if I look at the Y, it's also a flat line, which means it's not moving anywhere. You know, that there's no change. So what I'm going to do in the Z-axis is I'm going to take this. I don't want it going in a straight line. I want it continuing to speed up or move forward. So I will go to the curves, and post infinity, I'm going to press on this one here which says linear. Now watch the curve here, or line, as I do this. Look, linear. You see it jumps up. Now what's going to happen now is something rather unusual. I'm just going to extend this back to the 200 again. Yeah, so I've got my 24. Is now when the ball goes, it will do this. Yeah, see it in this one, I mean, it doesn't look very realistic, obviously. Balls don't do that, but yeah. Now, the good thing about doing that is means we don't need to deal with the Z translation for the time being. We're just going to be looking at the X, yeah? Sorry, the Y translation, the downward translation. So we've got our ball. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and grab hold of this. And we've got it moving forward, so we're not dealing with that. We're just dealing with the Y. And I think one of the things when you're doing this is I always try and make as few points as possible. Try and get, because it's a natural fluid motion, if you have too many points, it can start to become jerky and unwieldy. I mean, after all, this is just being affected by gravity. So what I'm going to do is the ball's coming down, and I'm going to move the ball downwards, and I can see the kind of trajectory I want. So I kind of want this to go like this. Yes, it's going to bounce. I'm kind of going to go forward like this. So I think, well, where do I want it to hit the ground at what point? So actually, I'm going to bring the grid back on again briefly because I want this line at the bottom. So I'm going to say, okay, so say if it's traveling the speed, let's say it's hitting the ground about here. About there. And I'm just going to update the motion trail so I get an idea. So we've got this. Okay, so that coming down like this, coming down like this. Now, this is quite a straight line, which is not really. When things drop, they drop in parabolic curves. Because, so what's going to happen is I'm going to just pull this. The ball will speed up as it's falling down. Now, if I look at this here, my y-axis, there are different ways I can do it. I could add more points, or I could just try and do it by affecting the way that this line looks. So I know that the ball has to speed up. Now again, we've got this problem. If you look at this line just in the y-axis, we have a kind of speeding up and then slowing down again, which isn't what happens. Because you can see, if you look closely at this, you see if that was a slope and a hill, again, it's like a slide. It bottoms out towards the bottom, which isn't what you want. When a ball hits the ground, it's basically traveling faster and faster, and then when it hits the ground, it stops and very quickly reverses its speed and goes in the opposite direction. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to change this line. Now we have all these different buttons here for changing tangents, and in order to get this, if I go like this, for example, if I just lift this like this, I get the line I'm looking for, which looks like this kind of bump. But the problem is that I don't want the line to go. When I make another point, I'll just show you what happens if I make another point. If I make another point, say, I don't know, here, I get this kind of bump going downwards, which is what I don't want. So what you can do in Maya, which is very interesting, is you can actually break the tangents. So if I select this point and click on this button here, which looks like a V, and it says break tangents, I can break the tangents. So I can then take this one, which I want to be flat. I don't want this, dipping down like this, and I can press the flat tangent button, but I've still got this broken tangent here. So now you've got more. Now I might think, oh, is this going far enough forward? I might think it needs to go a bit further. And what I could do is if I move this over by one, you can move points. If I click on the point, press the shift key and middle mouse, I can actually click this over by a little bit. And what will that? Oops. I should be doing it the opposite direction. And what that will do is it might move this slightly further forward. I wonder if that is correct. Is that good enough? Yeah, maybe that's enough actually. Maybe that's enough. That looks about right. Okay, we'll see this. We'll see this is correct. So the ball comes down, it bounces down like this. Okay, so that's the first bit. Right, and now because I've set this ball to go forward, one thing I should note, because this is set on auto key, one thing that it has done is it's taken. Remember, I had that amazing forward translation on the Z that just kept it going forward, so we didn't need to think about it. One of the problems with Maya is because I've made these points on the y-axis, it has automatically gone and keyed some points on the Z that I don't want, because I don't want this axis to be affected by it. But it's very straightforward. All I need to do is simply get rid. So the last point is, so get rid of these 2 points here, yeah? And then the ball will carry on moving forward as I want it to, yeah? Like this. So I've got this here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the ball up again, yeah? So I'm going to move this up here. Now, this is the highest point of the ball prior. You know, this is the ball's never going to bounce as high as the slope. This is the point where the ball comes off the slope. It's not going to bounce higher than that. So then my next point, I'm going to raise the ball up, but it's going to be a bit lower. It's going to be up to about, say, here. Yeah. No, that's still too high. Say there. Yeah. So about this bit. Maybe lower still. There. Depends how bouncy it is. Okay. Now again, we've got the problem with the tangents. They're looking kind of unusual because we've got this curve here. If you look at the curve, and I don't want this, but remember these tangents are broken already. I broke them, so I want this. Basically, what happens is the ball is going to be at its fastest when it comes just out of the bounce. So it's the opposite. It's going to be at its fastest just out of the bounce, and then it will slow down as it comes to the top. And it's at this point the ball's actually stopped moving upwards, and then it will start to fall back down again. Okay, so we've got this, that, and then yeah, you can see that they've got that bounce. And then if I go down, now these bounces will always be the same on both sides. Now remember the whole thing I said about, because I pressed S, it's automatically shoving keys on this line here, which is not what I want. Well, there's another way of making keys which can avoid this. So what I can do is, because I'm just dealing with one channel and I'm not keying everything because I'm only dealing with the Y translation, I'm going to make keys using this button here on the graph editor. So I go to the key button and I go to the insert key tool. Now I'm going to click on this line. If I select a key and left click on the middle mouse on that line, you see it's made a key, and then I can press on the move tool and I'm going to move this down and have a look at this.